the DA-led coalition government in Johannesburg has reversed a decision to permanently appoint over 100 political support staff. The decision was taken by the ANC-led government in the metro last year to keep them. The latest move will see about 120 support staff jobless. We get more detail from Leah Knott, MMC, for Group Corporate and Shared Services in Johannesburg. Leah, thank you very much for availing yourself this afternoon. So what factors were considered when making this decision to let them go?
So I think what we need to actually look at is that the multi-party government looked at this, but we've also been looking at it since its inception in early 2021. And we questioned the then Mayor, Jeff Makubo, asking him, under which legislation or under which mandate was he operating in making political appointees permanent. And that's what we have to distinguish between. Earlier today, the Mayor said, we're dealing with political officers. We're not dealing with administrative staff in the city. And we challenged the legality of this decision back when it was done initially. It then carried on just before the elections happened, on the same day that Cockta and Salga issued regulations that are now promulgated and will come into effect in the middle of 2022, stating very clearly that National has clarified that political officers are tied to term. They are not permanent positions. And on the same day, they then went ahead in recruiting permanent directors and deputy directors in political offices. Now, you can understand how this is complicated and also unlawful in the fact that the city manager carries the mandate to change the staff structure within the city, not the mayoral committee, and certainly not the chief of staff working for the mayor who was originally brought the reports to convert these deputy directors. So what we're really doing is we're correcting an unlawful decision that was made, which is unfortunately affecting people, but political office is tied to term. It always has been, and national legislation as of June, it always will be.
Just help us with this piece of the puzzle. You speak of directors and deputy directors. What functions do the support staff, perform?
So basically it varies. You have political caucus officers, which belong to, let's say, the DA, the ANC, EFF, etc. All political structures, according to their seat allocation, get a number of officials to support their caucus structures. Then you've got political officials in the Speaker's office, in the whips, the deputy whips, the chair of chairs, the various members of the mayoral committee, the private officers of the executive mayor, and these are political support staff. They subscribe to the mandate of the political head that they serve. They obviously guide political strategy in terms of what the administration carries out. So they are not your day-to-day service delivery staff. But this is where the problem has come in now with the new allocation of political staff to caucuses. You have new parties who come into council who cannot staff or capacitate their political structures because there's no vacancy that exists for it. It's sitting in another political office staff and mainly within the ANC's caucus structure.
So mainly a political decision, not necessarily financially. We understand that this would have cost the city some 59 million rand a year.
Well, it's actually 80 million. There were a number of other political appointees that we found because they were established not only in political offices, but they were also established in the office of the Chief Operations Officer, which is an administrative part of the city, which is highly, you can say, irregular. There was also 20 million rand that was put aside in the Mayor's office to create a political structure for MK veterans. Which was something that we found there when we came into government.
Was it necessary to let go of all of them? If you have let go of all of them, I ask in terms of maybe a skills or an ideological audit being done here to see who you can retain, as you rightfully mentioned. And we also spoke to a number of people here on the channel who have been impacted by this, saying that they've made so many commitments and here they are without work.
Yeah. Look, the fixed-term contracts, which are political officers, they've always been that way. And unfortunately, you take that risk when you take on that position. When the former Mayor Herman Mashaba left office, his political staff left with him. And so it carries on. We're dealing with a number of complaints from the political staff of 2019. I think close to 200 people were let go by the government of local unity at the time. And they were basically, given their termination letters and said, your end of contract will be this date. And then new people were hired, and they were given the option of converting to permanent. So if the idea is continuity, then you would have offered, and this is what the previous employees are saying, but we were the rightful beneficiaries of that conversion process. So you're now creating a conflict of rights in this entire scenario. And whilst unfortunately they've been sort of a victim of this, political irregularity that's happened, it's an unlawful decision. Council cannot continue knowing that it's an unlawful decision. We have to correct it in terms of the Municipal Finance Management Act, in terms of COCTA regulations, and we have to unfortunately do that. That's not saying that anybody who is in a particular position now, who has been advised that this conversion process has been undone or rescinded by Council, does not have the opportunity to reapply for where they are. And that would be a standard procedure, particularly in political office structures. We have many people who reapply on every 5 years according to the term, and many of them are rehired. Particularly if you have the ANC's caucus structure, they're well within their rights to rehire through the proper processes whoever was working in there originally. So it's not, to say that we're just letting all of these people go and that there's no opportunity for them to join the city. And where they do have skill sets that meet administrative requirements, that they are more than welcome to apply for those. But what you can't have is what we have at the moment, where we have deployments of political staff who were converted and being forced onto administrative departments and municipal entities without the required skill set. I'm dealing with a couple of cases now through HR where political staff who were converted were put into the administration, no recruitment processes were followed, and are now the subject of investigations because they have failed to comply with legislation and procurement and other avenues. So we are correcting a very deliberate but unfortunate mistake and an unlawful mistake that was made. But we have given, and the city managers running this process, to allow them to make representations to the city. So we're trying to run a consultative and fair process, because we do understand that this is not necessarily their fault, that they are the victims of this. But again, within the law, you cannot be a beneficiary of a fraudulent process. So we have to, abide by these things, and we are trying to do it in the best way possible that is fair to not only the current employees, but the 200 people that were let go previously who feel that they are rightfully entitled to what was given.
You paint quite a messy picture. How much, would then legal action complicate this situation? A number of these employees saying that they're looking at heading to the courts.
Well, look, everybody has a right to get a legal opinion. This matter, Council have made a decision on it and sent it back to the City Manager's office, and they have been given the space to carry out an investigation as to how this process unfolded, who's at fault for it, how we can correct in the best way possible, and that report will come back in 30 days to Council. So, everybody has a right to go and get a legal opinion. Unfortunately, as an administration, we cannot support what is essentially and what was cadre deployment. I can't put it any simpler than that. It's evident in the facts of the people that were employed, the reasons that they were employed for, the fact that, the council was not consulted, political parties were not consulted during this process. I myself wrote to the mayor at the time, as well as the MMC at the time, Councillor Masuku, to say that, you've gone to our staff and threatened them with termination if they don't sign conversion letters. You haven't consulted us as a party in order to convert our staff. For us, our right is to change our staff on fixed-term contracts when we want to. And the fact that you are coercing them into signing conversion letters is very telling in itself. So we're confident. We've worked excessively long amounts of time on this, consulted on various legal opinions. We've looked at the ramifications. We've looked at the labour relations issues. We've looked at how we can fairly consult with everybody. So this is not something we thought of yesterday. In fact, from my side, we've been fighting this since the beginning of 2021 when it first started.
Leah, are you aware some of these employees are alleging that they were intimidated when these letters were handed over to them? Are you aware of this?
No, I'm not aware of any intimidation. I know that some of the recipients refused to take the letters or didn't receive them, so security was sent to deliver them in person to ensure that they received them, so they were given the opportunity to make their representations by Friday. But I'm not aware of any reports or cases of intimidation.